We will read a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 9, verse 19. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tiryan Manusya Vibhuddhadi Shuji. Tiryan Manusya Vibhuddhadi Shujiva Yonishv. Atmechyayatma krita setu paripsayaya. Reme nirasta vishayopya varuta dehas. Tasmai namo bhagavate purushottamaya. Translation. O Lord, you are satisfied in yourself, devoid of material happiness, still you rejoice in your own joy. You manifest your beautiful forms according to your free will, under the aspect of animals, of men, of demigods, and you observe the injunctions and the forbidding things that are in regard to social religious life without being affected by the material energy. You're independent from all name that is religious, or you are designed to be Purushottam, or the Supreme Person. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that having offered his obeisances to the Lord under his aspect of the universal form, and such as the controller of time, Brahma offer him now his respect as the highest object of worship, the one who has a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The Lord appears out of his will under the spiritual form of animals, men, and demigods, with a desire to protect the principles that he has established. He rejoices then, although he doesn't have any desire for material happiness, since he is fully satisfied in himself. The rule that he has established is Bhagavad Gita 9:26. If a devotee with a pure heart offers to me a flower, a leaf, a fruit, or water, with love and devotion, I will accept it this present. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. To fulfill this promise, the Lord comes in the material world, and he rejoices of the garlands, the fragrances, the flowers, and the beds that are fed by his devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam 9:464. I do not desire to rejoice myself out of my own bliss and my 6 divine qualities, without my pure devotees, for whom I am the supreme goal and the end. Thus, although the Lord is satisfied in himself, he does not feel the true satisfaction without the company of his very dear devotees. Although articles such as garlands are material, they become spiritual when they are used for the worship of the Lord. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:25-25-28. The Lord has a transcendental body made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He has many forms. He appears under one of these forms, answering the desire of his devotee, and simply in this form, He is controlled by the love of his pure devotee. Out of his pure love, through the pure affection of his devotee, he seems to have a limited body when he becomes connected, tied by the ropes of Yashoda and by the other devotees through the transcendental affection. The word Purushottamaya refers to Krishna, who is the origin of the three Purusha avatars, who manifest material creation. The Bhagavad Gita 15:18 says regarding this, because I am beyond the fallible souls, and I surpass even the two aspects of Brahman and Paramatma, the whole world and the Vedas glorify me to be Purushottama, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Person.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishi Sunyavadi Prachatyadi Shakaru Om Shakal Pataru Vyacha Kripa Sindhu Dhyaye Vacham Patitanam Paramedyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhattavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Rama Hare Hare. We offer prayers according to our qualification, according to the reciprocation with which the Lord reveals Himself to us. If He reveals His sweetness and we see Him simply as the object of our love, then prayers will be feelings of love that will manifest in a way to express the intimate feelings. The gopis are perfect examples in these kinds of feelings. When Krishna, He called them with His flute, and they came at His feet, and He started to play with their feelings. Because Krishna is expert, He is Rasaraj, He is expert in playing with the feelings. And at the same time, He becomes Himself controlled by the feelings of His devotees. So what did He say to the gopis? He said, "What are you doing here in this forest, which is certainly filled with wild animals? You're here with a young man in the middle of the night, whereas you should be with your family, taking care of your children and your husband. So, it is not at all proper that you are next to me." And then the gopis, they started to think that Krishna was joking. It was an exchange of love. And Krishna he went further. He said, "Please, go back home. It's not in this way that you can attain me, not physically, but through meditation, through the feeling." And there they realized that Krishna was really asking them to go back. But Krishna took their heart when Krishna played his flute. their heart came out of their form itself. Their feelings were going before their form. And their heart came directly at the feet of Krishna. They could not take back their heart. Krishna was asking them something impossible. Material feelings do not allow us to understand this position. Because the vision of Krishna, as long as we did not see Krishna, we cannot understand what it is to be unlimited beauty. Krishna is like an enormous magnet, so powerful. And his devotees are like small pieces of metal. It's so powerful. The experience of Krishna is something that cannot be understood. It can be understood in a spiritual body. It is not possible to understand it materially because nothing is attractive like that. Even when you fall in love with someone in this world, but that you will ever think that you will die because of separation from another, but it's nothing. It's minute. So when Krishna started to play with their feelings, he said, "You have to go back." And they understood that he was not kidding. They couldn't. They couldn't. The heart couldn't leave. They completely gave themselves. They could not exist anymore without this relationship. How Krishna can do this? So they started to feel such a devastation because they cannot live without this relationship. But when Krishna does this, it is to be a witness to the inconceivable love of his devotees. And so, through this testimony, he himself is conquered. It is his nature. So, the Lord takes different forms, and we see that Brahma, his prayers, they're colored with knowledge, connected to his power. And that is why we do not feel this intimacy. And we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, that he manifests different forms. As the Purusha avatar, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, Kabhodakshay Vishnu, Karanodakshay Vishnu, and these three avatars, they are the cause of the material energy, and they are the cause of Brahma. So automatically, since Brahma is the most elevated being in the universe, he naturally has a relationship with his Purushas. And he understands that through Kshirodakshay Vishnu, the Lord takes unlimited forms. And he comes always for three reasons. The Bhagavad Gita teaches this. He comes, the most important reason is that he comes for his devotees. The rest is secondary. He comes to reciprocate with the love of his devotees. Establish the religious principles, punish the demons. It is secondary. But everything is based, in fact, with the fact of coming for his devotees. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada explained this in the purport. He said it is the most important principle because everything that motivates the Supreme Lord is love. Because in his world, there's only love. So when he comes, when he comes in the universe, the cause is love. It cannot be something else. Since in his abode everything is pure. So when he comes, the cause can only be love. So even if he punishes the demons, the cause is love. It is to liberate in a certain way. When he installs the religious principles, it is a principle of love. It is to allow for the living entities that are conditioned to awaken to their true nature. But everything is a question of love. But when we do not have a qualification and knowledge, that's why knowledge is important. We can think that when Krishna kills the demons because it is extremely violent, we even see in the cartoons like Little Krishna, for example, we see for the children it is violent. Kadiya, for example, it's very violent. And still it's just a cartoon. And the imagination of a small conditioned soul who never saw Krishna and never saw his pastimes, who imagined, according to what he saw, he was able but his imagination of the power of Kaliya and Krishna, based on what knowledge he has found. So the demons who appear in Krishna's Leelas, they're way beyond all of this. Their power is immeasurable. Dhenukasura, for example. We see that the Vedic scriptures, they teach that at one point, Dhenukasura, he unrooted Govardhan Hill and he threw it on Krishna. How is that possible? Can you believe it? So they're not small demons. Agasura, his mouth, it touched the sky. The skies, they were turning around his mouth when he was opening his mouth. Aristasura still was moving the clouds. We cannot imagine such demons, it doesn't exist. For a materialist, it is a man, a woman, Putana, 18 kilometers high. But why do we have faith? Because when we progress spiritually, due to invisible Sukriti, from acts connected to devotion that are invisible, we develop a faith where we can believe in impossible. It becomes normal. For example, if we say to a materialist that the Lord is present in the heart, the Paramatma, he will just laugh. He's present in the atom. There are millions of jivas in the heart. One predominates in the body, but one predominates. But there are many. Each cell, there's a whole world. Even the scientists, they discovered this, that they were like independent worlds. It is so much sophisticated a cell. That is why even the scientists, they conceive that there's a higher consciousness that organizes all of it. It's not possible. With the means that they have now to observe the human body, they realize that it is not possible. It cannot be out of luck. It is not possible. Now the pure atheist conception of science has changed, because the more they can perceive the reality, the more they are confused. They say, how it is possible. It's so much complete, one cell. It's like a universe. It is something that is phenomenal. So automatically, if they can be astonished with one cell, and that it opens a consciousness, it opens them a consciousness with a little bit of activities connected to devotion, we can naturally understand that this person who is behind must also be controlling and acting.
Donc,
So,
ce qu'on ne peut pas voir,
what we cannot see,
d'autres peuvent le voir.
others can see it.
Par exemple,
For
celui qui n'est
example,
pas un scientifique,
the one who is not a
il
scientist,
ne peut pas avoir
because
ce
he cannot
rapport
have this rapport
avec la création du Seigneur,
with the creation of the Lord,
il ne peut pas croire en quelque chose de supérieur.
he cannot believe in something
Ça
superior
ne l'intéresse pas.
because he's not interested. He prefers just the football matches. He doesn't care. So since he doesn't enter in something that is higher, automatically he cannot increase his consciousness. So this is due to a lack of goodness from previous lives. But when goodness is sufficient, then naturally we become enlightened by the greatness of the Lord, and gradually by the fact of wanting an intimate relationship with Him. It is something that is logical. However, Brahma, in these prayers, since he naturally has more relationship with the power of the Lord than his sweetness, then his prayers will establish the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. But through his prayers, when we have goodness from previous lives, then Brahma's own realizations, they will infuse within us. And this is what will make it that gradually, through our association with people who have more consciousness, we will obtain more consciousness. That is why study is so important. When we study the Bhagavatam, we cannot be like everybody else. Of course, we need to study with faith. But when we study through this faith of understanding that Srimad Bhagavatam reveals the highest truth, after we see through that, we cannot do it differently. Myself, I remember when I was a kid, I was seeing in regard to what my parents infused within me as knowledge, just like school infused in me the knowledge. But I didn't have the possibility to see the world differently. That is why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that material knowledge makes us become an ass. Because when we learn this knowledge, we don't see the spiritual truth. And right now, this is what is happening in our society. It is that due to a predominance of material knowledge, people lost this relationship with themselves as the soul and with the Supreme Soul, Krishna. That is why Srila Prabhupada, he wanted so much this knowledge to be distributed, because it is the only way for the living entities to be able to see the world differently and see the situation differently. You cannot come out of the trap of the mind without feeding your intelligence. It is not possible. That is why, when we're on the mental platform, we must study very seriously. And at that moment, when the intelligence is nourished, then we can control the mind again and come out of this mental jail. But when the mind takes over, what happens? We reject the association. And he captures us. And we're destroyed. We cannot even approach the philosophy. We become good for nothing. Because this is the nature of the mind. Just like an animal. So by studying, by associating with the devotees of the Lord, we nourish this intelligence. And at that moment, we can see the world through the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that at that time we can be very close to the Lord in the heart. And the next step
c'est qu'on peut directement
is that we can directly
entrer en contact avec lui.
enter in contact with Him.
C'est pourquoi
That is
on
why
devrait
we
toujours
should always
avoir une bonne étude sérieuse.
have a serious study.
C'est très important.
It's really important.
Écouter des classes,
Listen to classes,
s'associer avec les Vaishnavas.
associate with the Vaishnavas.
Parce que dès qu'on s'associe avec l'énergie matérielle,
Because as soon as we associate ourselves with the material energy,
alors
then
notre réalité recule.
our reality, it goes in the back.
Vous avez que deux possibilités dans ce monde.
You have two possibilities in this
Nourrir
world.
votre vérité
Nourish your truth
ou nourrir l'illusion.
or nourish the
C'est pas
illusion.
voir, c'est pas compatible.
It is both together are not
C'est deux
compatible.
énergies complètement différentes.
There are two energies that are completely different. Either you
Vous associez
associate
avec
yourself
vos fausses
with
réalités,
your false truth,
à
reality,
travers une mauvaise association,
through a bad
à
association,
travers
through
de la connaissance matérielle,
material knowledge.
soit
Either
vous associez
you associate yourself
la pure connaissance
with pure knowledge,
et les deux.
pure transcendental knowledge with
En
devotees.
proportion que vous avez l'association,
And in proportion that you have association, in proportion you progress or you regress. That is why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Javadharma he explains that when the association is constant and we let go of the material association, then we become a pure devotee. And what is the secret to finish is that although we are in the environment, we associate only with the Supreme Lord through His service. That is why we can work, we can have a family life. It has nothing to do with the situation. It is simply in which way we approach the relationships. Do we want them for ourselves? Or we execute it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord and His devotees? It's just that. The Supreme Lord doesn't ask everybody to live in the temple. But the problem is that due to our conditioning, we cannot do it. That is why sometimes we must renounce. This is the idea, to be able to have an association that is more favorable to progress. Otherwise, we cannot progress. It belongs to everyone to see the situation in which one is, and also to know what he desires, because the living entity also has desires. This is something that is personal. We cannot force someone. It's not possible, it must come from us. And at the beginning, it depends a lot on the external things. If you have kind devotees who smile, it will be easier. If they're always angry and they're always pouting and making a weird face. If the deities are well dressed, if the singers have beautiful voices, good Mrinanga players, good beautiful paintings, good prasadam, all this will allow for a neophyte devotee to be able to progress. Otherwise it is difficult. That is why our work on ourselves and is the consciousness to let go of the selfishness to become a servant, it is something that is really important. It is the foundation of a community. If we live for ourselves, we'll destroy everything. We'll never be happy. We'll think, oh, he did that to me, he did that. We'll spend our time in dealing with others, with conflicts. I want this, I want that. And as soon as we say something, there's like the rebounds. But as soon as we're a servant, we find taste, not in the external things, but in love of God, even at a small level. And from there, it becomes easy. It is where we have to what we have to reach. Because if we're all Madhyama Adhikaris, then it's very easy for others to live in a community. The Kanishta is distinguished by envy. He has desires. They are not connected with Krishna. Because of that, he or she is not able to satisfy them, and one becomes frustrated.
Et cette frustration,
And this
elle
frustration,
se rapporte sur les autres.
it is transported on others.
Et c'est ça qui est difficile dans la communauté.
And this is what is difficult in a community.
C'est pourquoi,
That is
si on vit
why,
dans une communauté,
if we live in a community,
on doit accepter ce
we
principe.
must accept this principle.
Je vis pour lui.
I live for Krishna.
Je suis sa servante.
I am his or her servant.
Sans ça, on va juste souffrir.
Otherwise, we'll all suffer. We'll
Ça
only
fait
suffer.
une accumulation de frustration.
It will be an accumulation of frustrations, just like a jail.
Parce qu'en fait,
Because in
on
fact,
va pas servir Krishna.
when we don't want to
Il y a
serve
rien de
Krishna,
pire que d'être dans un temple.
there's nothing worse than being in a
Tout
temple
est fait pour servir
where
Krishna.
everything is done to
Ça va
serve Krishna.
complètement à l'encontre
It goes completely
de notre
against
propre désir.
our own desire.
C'est comme être
So it's like
enfermé
being
dans un endroit
imprisoned in a place where we don't want to be.
Et c'est pour ça qu'on souffre.
And that's why we suffer.
Et dès qu'on devient un
But
dévot,
as soon as we become a devotee,
alors ça peut prendre du temps.
it can take time.
Ça change, c'est pas qu'on reste tout le temps.
It's not that we always stay,
Parce que ça serait pas possible.
because it will not be possible.
Mais dès qu'on va commencer à changer,
But as soon as we'll
plus on
start to
accepte
change,
cette vocation d'être
the more we
un
accept this vocation of being a servant and existing simply for the pleasure of Krishna,
et plus on devient heureux.
and the more we become happy,
Plus on goûte,
and the more we taste,
plus on veut se débarrasser d'indépendance.
the more we want to let go of independence, etc., etc.
Et si on reste bloqué
But if we stay blocked
d'indépendance,
on our independence,
alors on reste bloqué.
then we stay blocked on our frustration always, always. It comes back, it comes back, it
Et c'est
comes.
étrange,
And it is strange,
parce qu'il y en a qui
because
comprennent
some they understand,
et qui s'en sortent.
and who are able to get out of it, and some cannot understand it.
Ça, c'est dû à l'attitude.
This is due to the attitude.
L'attitude,
The attitude,
c'est quelque chose de très
it is something that is really important.
Quand on est un serviteur,
When we are a servant,
c'est comme si
then
tout s'ouvrait à nous.
it is just like everything will open to
On va
us.
voir nos défauts,
We will see
on
our
va voir
faults,
ce qu'il faut travailler,
what we have to work on,
on se libère de tout.
and gradually we liberate
Mais
ourselves
quand
from
on fait les
everything.
choses pour nous,
When we want things for
c'est
ourselves,
extrêmement compliqué.
it is extremely
À
complicated.
chaque fois, c'est la bataille.
Every time it is struggle,
Compliqué.
fighting, everything is complicated.
On comprend pas ça.
We don't understand this, we don't understand. We want to control, in fact.
Et à cause de ça,
And because of
on
that,
fait des offenses
we make offenses
et on progresse.
and we don't progress.
Donc il faut se libérer.
So we have to liberate ourselves
Et
from
pour
this.
ça,
And for
on
that,
doit étudier
we must study the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is really important. Thank you very much.